We are live now. So good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the last panel discussion before we close day one. Welcome to MT4D 2021. It's our second edition, and I'm pleased to host this last session for the day. My name is Clara Arthur, and I'm a consultant in digital financial services and an advisor for Financial Inclusion Forum Africa. Today, we have an amazing panel on funding innovation in a digital ecosystem, where we'll be talking about how development agencies like the UNCDF works with partners like yourselves or government in the private and public sector to leave no one behind the digital era. Did I tell you our panel was actually a fireside chat? It means that it's going to be very interactive. I'm inviting questions from all of you. And please don't hesitate, because this is one unique opportunity to speak to some key people who would actually show us how fintechs and others alike can actually have access to support from development partners like the UNCDF. Our goal today is whatever your role in this industry, that you come away with something, a new idea, a fresh perspective, a new strategy that you can apply and be more successful in your business. So ask my panel all the questions you would want on funding innovation, and just do that by going to slido.com and use event number 242633. 242633. So here's the format to give you an idea of what to expect. I'll just take a few moments and just briefly introduce my panel to you, and then I'll kickstart the conversation by asking you some questions. So thank you very much. And once again, welcome to the second edition of today's program. First of all, let me introduce to you Sabine Mensah. Sabine is a regional hub manager, inclusive digital economies with the UNCDF. Welcome, Sabine.
Thank you, Clara. It's nice to be here.
Thank you. Claire Kolonji is a UNCDF digital finance expert, and Claire joined UNCDF last year, and she joins us today with her valuable experience, and I'm sure there'll be key learnings and insights for us after this session. Welcome, Claire.
Hello, hi.
Finally, let me introduce my colleague who are currently working on existing project with UNCDF, Ariana Gaspari. Ariana is a financial inclusion specialist, and she's based here in Accra with us. Ladies, I think I'm honored to have an all-female panelist as well, because I remember there was an earlier one that was an all-male panelist. So thank you very much for making time, and let's get started. Please post your questions. There are so many channels for you to post your questions. For those of you who have my personal handles, you can go ahead. I think if you don't post the questions, it wasn't because you didn't have the avenue to post the question. Please, let's make it interactive, and please go ahead and ask all the questions you would need. So Sabine, I think I'll start off with you as our regional head. Briefly tell us, what is the UNCDF and what does the UNCDF do? Go ahead, Sabine, the floor is all yours.
Thank you very much, Clara. Please tell me you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, so thank you very much, and thank you to the organizer to give us such an illustrious platform to share a bit about UNCDF. So UNCDF, it's the United Nations Capital Development Fund, and we were founded in 1966 at the United Nations General Assembly. So one could think of UNCDF as the development finance arm of the UN. We really have a unique mandate in the sense that we have a capital mandate. We can engage the public and the private sector, and we bring instruments that range from technical assistance to capital investment. We can go from grant, guarantees, to concessional loans. We also bring a lot of work on data analytics, market analytics, with an approach that's really centered on customers and understanding what are the key barriers, the market failures, and how we can really embed in our approach an ecosystem that is going to deliver for the poor, for the unbanked, for those that are not connected to the formal financial ecosystem. So this unique value proposition help us bridge the disconnect that might sometimes happen between providing technical assistance solely between providing financing solely and by putting all of this together in an ecosystem and working with the different stakeholders, from the government to the regulator, to the private sector, to the NGOs, and also with the educational ecosystem, the researcher, and all of the stakeholders that can contribute one way or the other to the development sector and put all our resources and strengths together to deliver. So to some extent, one could say that. And every time when I go somewhere, it's like, what do you do? And it pleases me to tell everybody I make public and private finance work for the poor. Of course, that brings the next question. What exactly do you do? So the capital mandate that I mentioned earlier for UNCDF, it's really focusing on the last mile, because we believe that it is of the last mile that resources for development are the scarcest. It's where the market failures are most pronounced. And it's really where, if we're able to bring impact and the benefit of all of our intervention, we can really contribute to national growth, touching people that are excluded currently and really bringing millions of people within the financial ecosystem, and hopefully through those interventions to contribute to their own development. We do so by, through three channels, really. One of them is promoting inclusive digital economies. And for us, it really means connecting individuals, small businesses and households with a financial ecosystem. And that, by enabling finance, we can help contribution to the local economic development. We can also provide tools to help people, climb out of poverty and contribute to the sustainable development goal as a whole. A second channel through which we contribute is really looking at local development and how finance plays a catalytic role, working with local government through fiscal decentralization, municipal finance, project financing to drive the local economic expansion within the communities where we are. And last but not least, we also use an investment finance channel, whereas we can bring these catalytic financing and help de-risk a lot of the projects that initially might not be compelling to the private sector because the return on investment is not quite clear. But by our contribution in de-risking this project, we can bring the private sector, we can bring the different stakeholders to test and pilot these models to see how we can bring finance, whether public or private, to the last mile to benefit population and of course contribute to sustainable development goal. So that is in a nutshell UNCDF, and that is why I am at UNCDF, because through this I am able to say proudly that I am contributing to the community where I live and across the region where we intervene with my different colleagues to really bring the unbanked and most vulnerable customers to the populations, to the formal finance world. But in the end, it's not just having access to financial services, it's what financial services empower to you, me, or any of these populations to do, what they would like to do to achieve their own development goals. Hopefully that answers your question.
It surely does. And I think earlier today when the Vice President actually opened the second edition, he did talk about the fact that it had to be a combination of public and private. And I think this is where the UNCDF comes in, unlocking capital for the last mile. And sometimes I think that is where we all sort of take our eye off the ball to ensure that the last mile, the people who mostly need it, the vulnerable groups, when we're looking at women, we're looking at SMEs, we're looking at youth, returning migrants. And I think we should be passionate about doing this and then using the tools that the UNCDF brings on board to actually change and impact the lives of all of these people. So thank you very much, Sabine. And I think I'll still follow on with you. I know Ariana is standing by and I know I do have Claire. So perhaps you can just touch on a few approaches that the UNCDF use. I know you've mentioned one or two in your opening, but perhaps some specific ones that audience or participants can actually pick and ask us some more questions about that. Briefly, just talk through that, and then I'll move on to for the next question. Thank you.
Sure. All right. So let me zoom in on the inclusive digital economies and what promoting that means for us. So our vision is really to leave no one behind in the digital era. So how do we equip people? How do we really work in a way that these innovative services, whether they're financial or non-financial services or technology, are accessible and in that they play a transformational role in our day-to-day life. Because if we're able to find that really niche where a solution, a technology, or a service is touching a real problem that a person in a rural area, a woman, a youth, a smallholder farmer is facing in his her everyday life, we have high opportunity that this solution would be adopted, would be useful, and will contribute to have an impact. So for us, when we say leaving no one behind, it really means that it's looking at how we work with the different stakeholders to make sure that technology, financial, non-financial services are accessible, available, really have a value proposition that touch a problem that we face every day in our life for the populations that we are targeting, and that it provides a solution that's easy enough to understand, to use, solves a problem, and of course cost efficient, and it is in an environment that's regulated and that's focused on the protection of the consumer. So this approach of enabling inclusive digital economy works through 4 work streams, whereas we work with the government and the different regulator in ensuring that the regulation and the policies that are in place are really enabling a level playing field where financial service providers, fintechs, startup, and all of the ecosystem actors can come in and provide solution and play a role in accelerating financial inclusion. We're looking at it by starting with the customer themselves and understanding, again, in your everyday life, the value chain of needs that you have. What are you facing as the challenges in your economic opportunities, and how can we enable solutions in that you can use every day? And that it's really plays into what we call our human-centric design focus, building and immersing ourselves into the lives of our constituencies and the people that we want to serve, and being able to come back to the private sector and say, what can we do? And that comes into that inclusive innovation, which is another work stream where for us, I mean, you can innovate in so many ways, but at the end of the day, innovation for what? To include people, to enable and empower population to reach their goal and to also reach the sustainable development goals. So in that sense, it's really looking at what we can do when we know the problem that we are facing, the barriers that are in front of us, and that we're taking the customer's view in creating these solutions and being able to apply them, and of course, making them available to the customers. And all of that within making sure that the infrastructure is no longer a barrier in itself for the population. So when you look at it from that perspective, our approach to inclusive innovation stems from the belief that an ecosystem is needed to really empower these innovation, that different stakeholders need to come in together and see to what extent collaboration can happen, even though there are some areas where competition will be, but how do we facilitate that? And that we want to make sure that we are enabling solutions that are piloted in the real world with customers within the context, whether it's a rural area. And in this particular case, we're talking even the Ashanti region or the Western region with the green program that we have right now in Ghana with the European Union. How do we do it? We believe at UNCDF that when we say, leveling the playing field, it applies to all of us. So in that sense, all our processes are competitive processes that are heavily promoted through social media, communication, so that all the stakeholders in the ecosystem know and hear about these opportunities. We start with the problem we want to resolve, and that's structured to a request for application process that I identify clearly. This is our customers that we are focusing on. We want to take you here in this region. We want to focus on the youth, the women, the smallholder farmers in this region. And we know this is the problem that they are facing every day. And we would like you to provide a solution there. And of course, that request for application will include all of the criteria that we are going to be looking at in terms of evaluating the proposals that are we receive through this process, so that we can, at the end of the day, have a panel of experts will come in and evaluate the proposals that we receive, whether they're meeting the request for application criteria, and also if the value for money is compelling versus the solutions that are being proposed, and they are indeed resolving or at least proposing a pathway to resolve the issues that we want to face. And then through that process, we will decide how we contribute with financial support, with technical assistance, in a combination or investment, a combination of all three as needed, depending on the program focus. And then there is a very structured and rigorous monitoring and evaluation framework that we put into place to work with you, the partners that are selected, because at the end of the day, for us, UNCDF, what's in it is learning lessons for the ecosystem at large. And that's the reason why we communicate and we publish a lot on these projects, on these pilots, because we believe in best practice sharing. We believe that this ecosystem will build from the lessons learned from the implementation of these projects. And if we are able to show success at the pilot phase, the private sector will crowd in, donors will crowd in to really scale up these solutions that will likely bring the millions of customers within the financial ecosystem that we are building. So hopefully that answers your question.
Very much so, it does. Thank you very much, Sabine. Thank you very much. So everybody watching, everybody listening, these are some of the approaches you can actually use to unlock some of these funds and some of the methods you can adopt to make that change and that impact. And I like what Sabine said, innovate for what? If we don't change the narrative and make sure that this is targeted, this is actually looking within to find out what you need to change your life and your business. That is the only way you can actually access the solutions that are available. So thank you very much, Sabine. And now I'll move on to Claire. I think for me, Claire, in 2016, the World Bank published the fact that the global digital economy was estimated over $11 trillion. And then we all woke up and suddenly there was a pandemic. COVID had happened. And I think for us, resilience, how do we charter this course? I mean, this is definitely the course of the unknown, but we've actually been on it. And I would say, yes, we have vaccines now, but what have we done at UNCDF to be able to weather the storm? So Claire, at this point, can you just share with the audience some of the results UNCDF has actually come up with, following some of the initiatives that we've implemented in supporting digital solutions for resilience for SMEs, especially in West Africa, and more keenly, if you can focus on what we have done, looking at the impact of COVID. Please go ahead, Claire.
Okay, thank you, Clara. I hope you can hear me well.
Yes, I can hear you clear.
Okay. Well, the objective of this initiative was really to collaborate with the private sector to make sure that we could leverage on digital to help MSMEs to be more resilient in this time of COVID. It was back in last summer, so we didn't know much about the pandemic and we didn't know what to do. But the idea was to say, okay, you private sector, you have ideas, you have innovative solutions, and we at UNCDF, we are able to help you in different ways. For this initiative, the support was a financial support through grants, but also technical assistance support, which was specific for each of the partners. So what we did, as Sabine mentioned, we published a request for application, and we received a lot of applicants, and we have this selective process for which the panel of experts is looking at all of the project. And one of the most important thing when we select the project is if it's sustainable. So we were looking at private companies with who wanted to test something, wanted to launch pilot or to scale up or to design differently a product. And we knew that it would be sustainable in a way, but they needed some technical assistance first or some financial support to launch the project. So finally, we selected 6 applicants from 3 different countries in West Africa, which is Benin, Ghana, and Senegal. And they had various innovative solutions. It goes from microinsurance to online marketplaces, or even cash register and stock management solutions, click and collect delivery stuff like that. It was really various. The idea was, how can we help the MSMEs to go through this crisis? How can we use the digital to help these MSMEs, which are not always at ease with the technologies, to make them go through COVID-19, because the clients could not come to the shops. So what can we do? Because they were not insured. So how do we get to them and explain the product of microinsurance and so on? So mostly what was interesting for us, as Sabine said, we take a look at the lesson learned. So in terms of technical assistance, the needs were clearly on how the process, how you get your live process into digital. You don't get a digital tool that you implement in your process. No, you have to change your process. So we help them to look at the processes, make them smarter, and make them really straight to the point, so that we can digitize part of them. We also work a lot on the customer segmentation, on the product design, because sometimes the innovative solution were just not designed for the customer needs. So we had to work on that. And it was quite interesting to see that two of the partners changes totally their strategic into the business. They moved to another product. They decided not to sell the previous one. It was really good to see that the business strategy was moving. And as I said, we are helping them to test new things, to take risks. So it's very good for us when we see that even if the targets were not reached, the lesson learned helped them to get to the goal to help the MSME. We are now at the end of the project. We started in October. Now in March, it's the end. So we are doing all the evaluation work now. And we reached more than 5,000 MSMEs in the 3 countries, which is, I would say, something around 30,000 end users at the end of the day, which have been impacted by this partnership. And what is interesting now is that we have identified for some of the actors new business opportunities, and even new partnerships that were not feasible before, but because of publication, because of UNCDF network, because of the risk that they took by launching new products, they managed to have new business opportunities in perspective.
Thank you very much, Claire. I will come back to you. I think I would definitely agree with you. The MSMEs were one of those segments within this, each country, in fact, globally, especially bringing it back home to Ghana or even in Africa, is the fact that the impact of COVID on small businesses is actually what a lot of central banks actually go to bed and they can't sleep, because I think just when we were all making efforts in terms of helping them, seeing how startups, like Sabine mentioned, unleashing capital to the last mile, then we had the effect of COVID. So for me, I think if we're able to come up with models and new businesses that MSMEs can actually rely on during this pandemic in terms of being resilient, being able to survive, I mean, it's going to be one of those clear benefits that UNCDF brings. And I'm glad that you mentioned Ghana and some of the other countries as well. So yes, these are some of the opportunities fintechs can actually have working with the UNCDF. And like we said, you can always speak to us and we can actually give you more information about how to partner with us to actually reach your goals. I think at this point, I'd like to bring our financial inclusion expert here. Ariana would join us here. And then I think, Ariana, here, you would like to talk to us and just to tell us what are some of the plans UNCDF has to increase access and usage of financial services. We've just talked about the fact that MSMEs need to have access to these. They need loans. In fact, even people need savings, insurance. There's so many financial products that people need just to change their life. So can you just tell us what UNCDF does and what are some of these plans that we have to increase access to financial services in Ghana? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Clara. And thank you to my colleagues for giving like an overview of what UNCDF does. In Ghana, we are channeling all these best global practices as we are leading the financial inclusion efforts of the European Union when it comes to financial inclusion for job creation. Access to finance is indeed, as you said, Clara, one of the key success factors when it comes to economic independence, especially for youth, women, and smallholder farmer and vulnerable groups in remote areas. And digital, as we saw today, represent a huge potential, right, to accelerate these results. In Ghana, UNCDF is specifically mandated to pilot, test, and scale up innovative financial services to increase access and usage. And I would like to echo my colleague Sabine when she said we start from the end users, right? What do they need? What do youth and women need to succeed in their journey towards economic independence? And from there, we want to support both public and private sectors to come up with the solutions that match their needs. And I think that what UNCDF can provide to the financial ecosystem, especially to the financial providers, as we saw today, is to bring in this set of de-risking tools, both funding and technical assistance and customer centricity, to make sure that we prove the business case, the use cases. And then, as Sabine said, the crowding in effect that we want will happen, right? To make sure that the financial inclusion agenda of government of Ghana is achieved. It's been a pleasure also to hear today from colleagues and other key stakeholders that to achieve this objective, we need a common and comprehensive approach, including policy, infrastructure, private providers, and this is what UNCDF wants to promote in Ghana. We want to collaborate and coordinate with all the players that within the financial ecosystem. Specifically, we want to work with the private sector, again, to come up with this innovative business model that can last beyond our intervention at the benefit of the youth and women and vulnerable groups. As of today, we are active with our portfolio with 6 providers, and some of them, I saw them today during some of the panels. And more opportunities will come. We are now undergoing like a new round of selection of partners, and we will soon focus our attention on the remittance space, as well as new innovative ways to channel diaspora funds. So if you are out there with innovative solutions to tackle this challenge, please do connect with us, as we will be able to find a way to match both demand and supply of the financial ecosystem. Last but not least, I would say we are also strengthening our collaboration with the policy making bodies, including Bank of Ghana, as well as the Ministry of Finance, to make sure we continue sharing the voice of private sector and vulnerable groups to inform the policy making. As UN agency, I will say, and on behalf of the European Union, who has, by the way, a very strong digital transformation agenda, and I'm sure the government of Ghana will be one of the best country to test their strategy. We are honored to be part of this initiative, as we are keen to work with all of the partners and to contribute and build the Ghana's inclusive digital economy. I'll stop here.
Yes, yes. Thank you very, very much. And I think that's exactly what we want, partners who are interested to work with Ghana in terms of various collaboration and synergies that we can pilot to promote Ghana's digital economic agenda. So at this point, I think it's been a long day, but I would have to come back to Sabine before I can check if we have any questions. So here, I would like to ask Sabine, what sort of recommendations you would give to providers on how to engage with us. I know we mentioned the request for application process, so perhaps here, if we can just be specific about what are recommendations to providers or fintechs, especially for this case, in terms of how they can engage with UNCDF. Please go ahead, Sabine.
Thank you very much, Clara. You know, I often get the question, and every single time I say the answer, providers are not necessarily happy with that. There is no models where you engage directly with us. We don't, just select you and then let's go, let's do a project together. That's not how we work. We are a UN agency. We promote inclusive digital economy. Our approach is based on a competitive process so that we can justify why you and not the rest of the other private sector providers that are in the ecosystem. So they're, of course, following us, whether it is on our website, or whether it is on LinkedIn or Twitter, UNCDF Digital, uncdf.org on the website. Those are all ways that you can keep track of what's happening in UNCDF, at UNCDF, and what are those opportunities. Like I said, we promote heavily when there are requests for application because it is in our interest that we get a multitude of solutions and private sector partners that are applying. So we make sure that we are as thorough as possible in the partner we select to be able to implement the project. There's also a duty for us. Before we come in with these requests for application, we do a lot of market research to find out who's out there, what are the different types of solutions, what type of innovations are out there. For instance, I think in the next month, we are going to be launching a public process where you can register yourself as a fintech in that ecosystem. Tell us about you. What is your solution? Which sector are you serving? And this is going to be a public process as well. You can go in and just click on a link and then provide this information. So that helps us map the ecosystem. And that's a mapping that we share broadly, that it's live. So you can keep adding for new players and new startups, new fintechs that are coming in, can give us that information. So when we sit down, we can say, okay, at this point in time, this is the fintech ecosystem, the startup ecosystem that we see in Ghana or in Senegal or in any other country for that matter, so that, when these opportunities are there, we can make sure that you are aware of these opportunities. But it's also helps us as we engage with the government, with the regulators, and also the ecosystem at large to bring forth innovations that are in the market that perhaps people didn't know about. So there are all of those ways for us to understand who's in the market. And you can also really share with us presentations about your organization so that we collect this information and we know more about the ecosystem out there. But it wouldn't be for a direct engagement with you. And I really stress that point because that is not just our model of engagement. We want you as a private sector partner to compete for these projects because we manage the poor's money. I say that every time. This money, these grants, these donor funding that we have and we are leveraging for these projects, we want to make sure that we are really evaluating the partner and selecting them on a competitive basis, and that when we make that investment and we put into place this project, you, the partner one, will not complain about, such a rigorous monitoring and evaluation, framework that UNCDF has. You are asking us all of these information, you are publishing all of this. But guess what? This is the reason why we invest. This is the reason why we do these projects, because we want to share this information. We want the ecosystem, when they're doing this innovation for the last mile, that they don't need to start from scratch. Others have done it. And the more we publish, the more we facilitate these exchange of information. the better we are at really assessing whether we have the right solution. How can we customize the solution? What do we need to do? And how do we really put all the ingredients in our strengths and partnership in place for maximum impact? Because at the end of the day, this is what we want. Innovation for what? Innovation to include millions and millions in the financial ecosystem. Innovation so that people can use financial services, digital services to empower themselves, to reach their own goals, to open new economic opportunities for them, their family, and their communities, the businesses around that. That, if we are able to do it collectively together with the private sector, government, the regulator, and the donor community, this is how we are pushing forward. This is how we are promoting inclusive digital economies that leave no one behind. So that's it.
Thank you, Sabine. Innovation to actually leave no one behind. I think this is what the UNCDF stands for. And yes, it's a competitive process and we want the best to reach everybody else. Ariana, I think in talking about innovation here, just quickly, just sort of come in here because I think UNCDF is currently piloting some crowdfunding initiatives in Ghana. Perhaps just a few minutes, just sort of give us an overview of that, because those are some of the unique, innovative initiatives that the UNCDF is actually working on in Ghana. Ariana, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Yes, indeed. One of the objectives, let's say, of UNCDF is to test these new innovative approaches. And one of the idea was to test crowdfunding as alternative financing model for the most vulnerable. As we know, access to finance is usually an issue. So we wanted to bridge this gap, this financing gap, especially for SMEs from Ashanti and Western, to actually have this relief and make sure that this kind of opportunity will link them up with a broader access of financial services. We have engaged with 2 partners, piloting different models, and I think we've been very timely as the Bank of Ghana has issued the policy on that. So this somehow shows that we are piloting relevant solutions. We're still in a very nascent stage, the sector, but we are keen to learn more and more from current providers, from new ones that will come. And the idea is to inform the stakeholders on how to proceed, right? As Sabine was saying, to not reinvent the wheel, but rather continue this dialogue between private and public sector at the benefit of the financial inclusion of all Ghanaians.
Okay, thank you very much, Ariana. Do we have any questions? I think I don't see any questions in my queue, so perhaps here we can just sort of end the session, and I can just ask Sabine as our regional head to give us the closing remarks and to share a few words with everybody else on this. Sabine, please.
Thank you very much, Clara. I think before even closing, I would like to thank you, Ariana, Ophelia, Enea, all of our team in Ghana. And I'm only citing a few names because there's a much larger team in Ghana for all the work that you are doing. And I also like to thank the European Union for the support that has been provided to us for the implementation of the Green Program. I'd like to thank the government and the organizers of the MT4D for the opportunity it's giving to UNCDF to intervene and share with the ecosystem how we engage with the private sector and other stakeholders as we are promoting inclusive digital economies and also inclusive innovations particularly, and the role that we can play with others in promoting innovation will provide adapted solutions accessible for populations that are unbanked, that are living in most rural areas, youth, women, smallholder farmers, so that we are able to advocate for financial inclusion for all. And we are able to also fast track that with innovative services and products and systems. So it really is an honor for me to be here sitting from Dakar and contributing to this discussion. And hopefully we've been able to share a bit of who we are and how we engage with the ecosystem. I hope this will be a call to all of the innovators, fintech, and stakeholders that are in Ghana and across other countries to engage with us directly. Please do not hesitate. Share your information, share what you are doing, help us build this ecosystem mapping so that we know who's out there and what innovations are being piloted. And whenever there's an opportunity to engage through a request for application, you yourself are not left behind, and you are helping us provide these solutions to the rest of the ecosystem. It's too often that we are looking at financial inclusion, and we are talking about what is it that we can do. I believe that we all have a role to play. It really takes an ecosystem. It takes a village. It takes all of us engaged, and it takes intentional. Being intentional in our approach of innovation and working with the regulators, with the government and the different stakeholders. But the private sector has a role, a leading role in this, because you are the one providing the solution. And if our role as UNCDF and other donors and development stakeholders in the ecosystem is to push you to go through the last mile and find these solutions that we need to serve the ones that are most vulnerable and most left out today, then we will be doing what we need to do to make sure that it is financial inclusion for all. So thank you very much, Clara. Thank you to all of you for the opportunities to contribute. Here we go.
And there was just one more question that has come in, so just give me one more window to just ask. So there's a question here, Sabine. How do you marry the support from donors with the Ghana Beyond Aid agenda? I think the government of Ghana has been very passionate about ensuring that we go beyond aid. So how do we sort of put this, just oppose this, make sure that we are releasing private capital to the last mile, but at the same time being mindful that we need to be equipped to stand on our feet and do what we have to do? I think that's a good question.
Oh, that's a really great question. Not sure there's a simple answer to it. The way we strive to do it is to use all the different instruments that we have. Earlier I had mentioned our capital mandate and investment instruments, where we are looking at either guarantees, concessional loans, not only just grants, and being able to use blended finance where the opportunities are, where grant can be the one that, the instrument that you're really using to find out if there is indeed a solution, if there is indeed a business case there to be pursued. And when solutions are coming in where there's already that business case, then grant is not necessarily the solution there. It's really looking at how do we help domestic financial service providers provide a solution to you by de-risking the investment in your business, in your innovation, in your fintech. And that's where we will come in with either a guarantee scheme, or we'll come in with a concessional loan, or a mix of, to see what is the ultimate mix that we can bring so that the financial sector, the domestic financial sector, can venture and take this risk, more risk into these fintech innovative solutions, so that we all contribute to that objective. I think that's one way, and an area that's really key in our intervention at UNCDF. We have an investment platform within the organization. We have investment officers coming from the private sector that are looking at these opportunities from a critical view and saying, what's the sustainability of this solution? How do they stand on their own feet? And how do we make sure that our intervention is additional and it is not substituting ourselves to what the private sector can do, what the government can do, and what the domestic financing sector can bring as a solution. And we work closely with such sector to provide this solution. At the end of the day, what we see is our role to be catalytical in the investments that we're making, that we can show perhaps a proof of concept that will draw others to come in and crowd in that space. You will see that a lot of the scaling up of these solutions that we are testing are done by the private sector themselves with their fund. We are just the tipping point that's pushing towards the last mile, because these are our constituencies. This is where we want to make a difference. And those are the population that need the most to support the accessibility and these opportunities that they can use every day to empower themselves and reach their goal. So it's not the full answer, but it is how we look at it and strive to work with the private sector, with government, and also with the regulator. And likewise, you will see that we have also investment funds that, for instance, the municipal investment fund, which is really for municipalities and local government. And we also have investment mechanism that look at bringing venture capital into the ecosystem, so that we are intervening in one way and we are offering a platform for these different actors to come in and invest more fund into sustainable solutions in that ecosystem. I hope that answers the question.
Perfectly. Thank you very much. I think for me, the biggest takeaway here is, how do we crowd the domestic financial sector with innovative ideas? How do we unlock private capital to deliver this? And I think if we're able to do this very well, achieving our Ghana Beyond Aid targets that we've set would definitely be a success. So on behalf of everybody, on behalf of MT4D 2021, I just want to say thank you very much, Sabine, for making time. I know you were actually on leave, so we appreciate the fact that you've been able to join us. Claire, thank you very much for joining us as well. And to Ariana, my colleague, I'd like to say thank you for this time, and we look forward to the next event with MT4D. Derek, I hand over to you. Thank you very much, everybody, and have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
So we have come to the end of day one of the Mobile Technologies for Development 2021 here at this two-day virtual event. Day one is done, but the conference is not done. It's just halfway through, halftime, as you will call it. Now, what we will do for the next hour is for you to have an opportunity, if you missed throughout the day, to go to our exhibition booths, to do so now. For the next 1 hour, 60 minutes, you will have the opportunity to go to all the exhibition booths, see for yourself what is on offer from our main sponsors. I'm talking products, I'm talking services. Go in there, get best value for yourself, close that deal today, and then tomorrow you come get the very best that will crown the two-day Mobile Technologies for Development 2021. I am Francis Abend. Thank you for allowing me to be your master of ceremonies for today. We'll do it all over again tomorrow, and it promises to be even better. Tell a friend to tell a friend that the best mobile technology conference is underway for you to be a part of. Good evening.